While it's true people still call it the 100-acre wood, that's mostly out of habit.
Pooh steps around the older road and chooses the one we always take. The path that has learned our direction well enough to keep it, even where the ground thins and gives way to the great open expanse of space. The edge does not announce itself as a boundary, but rather behaves more like a lapse in confidence, the subcontinent deciding, without complaint, that it no longer needs to continue everywhere at once. Below us, the stars are doing what they have always done, which is to mind their own business. The wood drifts over them with the distracted dignity of something that was never meant to leave the ground, but has decided, through a series of small compromises, that falling would be worse.
You'll notice, for example,
Pooh declares as if I'm a tourist in his country,
that the path still curves properly despite the abyss swirling below us.
I had noticed. I was choosing not to comment. The forest gets cranky when reminded.
That's kind of you. It's been doing its best in its not-togetherness.
The trees near the edge lean inward in the way of old things that prefer company, when they are unsure how long they are expected to remain useful. They are not quite like the trees one finds on Earth. Their roots grip what soil remains with a courtesy that suggests memory rather than strength, as though the idea of ground still holds some authority here, even when the ground itself has become negotiable. They continue to grow despite this, adjusting themselves to Azathoth's domain with a patience that implies participation rather than resistance. From a distance, one might call this a floating landmass, a fragment, a remnant. From within it, the wood continues to behave like a place that assumes someone will arrive shortly, and would rather not look unprepared.
Anyway, the forest answers to other measurements these days.
He lectures on like an eldritch god who runs a library. Pooh had begun lecturing in earnest, which was alarming, because it sounded uncomfortably familiar. He was answering questions I had not yet asked, and doing so with the mild, disappointing cadence of a librarian who knew my mind's signature.
And I know what you'll say.
Pooh continues, already a step ahead of me.
We don't really know how many trees there are. And now we won't, not properly, because some of them have gone to be useful elsewhere after the incident.
Pooh continues his lecture for a few more steps, though the cadence changes. His volume and tone make room for his focus, the way a thought does when it realizes something nearby is more interesting than what it was saying.
And of course,
Pooh says, still facing the path.
The difficulty with counting anything here is that it doesn't always remain interested in being counted.
The words arrive with the ease of something he has said before, perhaps many times, to no one in particular. And that is when I become aware that his attention has settled on my walking stick. I am holding the wrong one again. This predictably proves far more compelling to him than my past encounters with various pantheons and woodland politics. That depends, I say after a moment, on how one defines interest. Pooh glances up at me in passing, the look brief and uninsistent, and I find myself committed to studying the path with an intensity it has not earned.
I was using the ordinary sort, your great oneness.
Yes, well, that is usually where the trouble begins. We take several more steps. The wood accommodates us in the manner of something that wishes not to be blamed. You see, I continue, gesturing faintly with the stick I should not have. This forest has developed certain habits. It is not especially attached to its arrangements. Branches, paths, walking sticks. These things are inclined to reconsider themselves. Pooh hums, which I take as provisional acceptance. They adjust, like clothing, or moods, or opinions held for a very long time without supervision.
I think I see the merit in your thesis. So the stick has gone somewhere else, because the magic forest wanted it to.
Temporarily, I assure him. It will return when it feels appropriately regarded.
And does it do this often?
Frequently. It has a family to provide for.
And only when you are holding it?
I do not answer immediately. The path continues, though I sense it is listening. That is a coincidence, I say at last. Correlation should not be mistaken for responsibility. Pooh considers this carefully. His steps unhurried. His expression thoughtful in the way of someone deciding whether to accept a complicated explanation out of kindness.
Do they change clothes and take picnics when no one is holding them?
Occasionally, walking sticks possess a surprisingly diverse anthropology.
Fascinating. I've lived here most of my life, and I didn't know sticks had their own surviving culture. Perhaps they'll break bread with me one day. Oh, perhaps a town hall meeting. Perhaps we could also suspend all reason and just ask the forest where the nearest Sticksville is located.
I tighten my grip, which does not help. The forest is undergoing a period of self-expression. Pooh nods to a tree that timidly shrugs in his direction.
That sounds tiring.
It is. We walk a little farther in the lazy metronome of a housefly.
I would certainly, definitely, absolutely, and positively expect.
Pooh declares, much like a news anchor who's been sitting on a thesaurus for a chair and absorbing the contents that way.
That the forest knows which stick belongs with which walk, much like a person would, much, shall we say, like an elder god whose grandfather is the gatekeeper of time itself should.
I do not like the direction this is going. It is possible, I concede, that some objects develop preferences.
For people?
For contexts, I correct.
And do you think you are the right context for that stick?
Pooh asks like his words are wielding a scythe of reason, still not looking at me. I eventually halt and the 100-acre wood does not object. After some decorative moments, I release the stick. It waits where it is, innocent as a mistake allowed to rest. Well, I suppose. It appears I am not. I then, without comment, reach down and take up a different stick that is also incorrect. Pooh grins first in his eyes and then with his face, satisfied in the way of someone who has not won an argument, but has allowed one to finish.
That's all right, Great One. It's good of it to remind you.
We walk a few more tepid steps. The path obliges, then hesitates, then obliges again, as though reconsidering its responsibilities when Pooh and I play these games of memory together. You see, I continue, gesturing vaguely with my walking stick and gesturing vaguely with the entrails of my eldritch dignity. Objects like these rarely vanish. They are far more inclined to redistribute themselves. It is simply out of my control. Pooh hums with more open amusement, the sound suggesting cautious approval. You see, the matter with these walking sticks is that they are prone to take shifts. One remains present while another attends to elsewhere. It's a very old system, inefficient, but it survives in this magical woods.
Oh, wow.
Pooh remarks, pretending to feel like he was born yesterday.
Like when Rabbit goes missing but is actually just being busy somewhere important?
Precisely. You are beginning to grasp the wisdom forbidden in the likes of the Necronomicon now, except the somewhere we're discussing is less specific and the importance is largely self-assigned. He considers this and examines my very wrong walking stick for the occasion again.
Does the stick know when it's on duty?
I would assume so, otherwise it would be chaos. Pooh nods gravely.
We've had quite enough of that.
There is a whimsical pause in our company now, companionable and unhurried.
Still, it does make counting difficult, wouldn't you say?
Yes, I find it helps not to try. I make a noise of agreement and adjust my grip slightly. I will have you know, little friend, that I have acquired a lot of walking sticks over the years. Enough, I suspect, to begin a modest woodland if I were so inclined, and perhaps I will call it the 200-acre wood when I am done. Pooh considers this. His gaze drifts, not to me, but to the forest around us, to the places where the trees grow a little thinner, where the ground still seems uncertain of its own intentions.
Well then, perhaps you wouldn't, depending on how well you remember which ones are meant for walking and which ones are meant to stay in rivers.
Alternatively, I could simply ask my grandfather to invent a timeline in which sticks are always where they are meant to be. It would be simple enough. A small adjustment, barely noticeable really, in the larger architecture of things. Pooh lifts a paw and taps it gently against his forehead. An old habit, carried forward from a time when gestures mattered because there was no one else to perform them.
That would be cheating, and he would still have to get the timing right. And you once lectured me about how your grandfather gets bored of certain timelines. I don't know if Yog-Sothoth cares about assorted sticks and long walks with talking bears.
True, if one wishes a thing done properly, it is generally best to do it oneself. This seems to satisfy him. We resume walking. He pauses again, then adds almost thoughtfully.
You know, Old One once implied a deep respect for all things eldritch and indescribable. Rarely was it meant for conversations involving forests in a storybook.
And yet, I glance down at my unlikely friend of the woods. I let the thought trail off, satisfied to leave it there. This is, careful listener, how Pooh and I have come to banter on our frequent walks with each other. Pooh eventually breaks the silence, not one to let me trail off into the primordial past.
It's still kind of you to take a river stick on a walking stick's journey.
I am nothing if not a merciful god.
And is that why you saved the 100-acre wood? Was it like taking the wrong stick and giving it a home anyway?
Pooh is very good at waiting things out before he finally gets to the heart of the matter. It is not a passive thing with him. It is something he does deliberately. And I have noticed over the years that this sort of behavior complicates my grandfather's work. Yog-Sothoth and I were once observers together, careful ones. We watched things fade with professional interest in the will of entropy, and a shared understanding that intervention, however tempting, only delayed the inevitable and made the accounting worse. That was the arrangement. It suited time very well, and the natural chaos of Azathoth's dream state. Then my encounter with the bear happened. Time noticed him in the same way it notices irregularities in a pattern it has already solved. My grandfather does not enjoy that sort of surprise, and he enjoyed even less the moment I decided it warranted a response. One might suppose that omniscience would grow bored of a talking bear very quickly. My grandfather certainly expected as much. Omniscience, after all, is rather like possessing a very large library, and knowing exactly where every book belongs, what it will say before you open it, and how it will end before you reach the last page. Pooh does not belong on any shelf I am aware of. This has complicated matters. He does not behave according to expectation, which is unusual enough. but he also refuses to repeat himself in ways that would make correction useful. My grandfather finds this untidy. I have suggested on several occasions that he may be overthinking the bear. These suggestions are rarely well received, especially after the incident. The conversation usually concludes with me being redirected several dimensions away, and time returning at once to its examination of Pooh, who remains blissfully unaware that he has disrupted a timetable that was, until recently, considered complete by a very powerful eldritch god. And this, I suspect, is why my grandfather keeps this particular timeline close at hand, the way one keeps a familiar book nearby without rereading it, certain it has not finished saying what it came to say. All these thoughts and a billion other points swim through my mind, just as Pooh brings me back to the present, because a very serious matter is happening, and the bear nor the 100-acre woods will allow me to walk with the wrong stick. I consider offering him a shorter answer. I am capable of several. I could even freeze time and come back to this spot if I so pleased. I have had aeons to rehearse them. None of them would be false, exactly. They would simply be incomplete in ways that benefit no one. Yes, but that explanation assumes the decision happened all at once. Pooh nods like a monk with fur, satisfied, which tells me I've already failed to evade his longer and incredibly indulgent Socratic style of questioning. I think he might have learnt that from being in my society for a while. I had not intended to remember this yet. The path, however, has stopped pretending to move, and Pooh will not proceed while I'm holding something that does not belong to me. So I suppose this is as good a place as any to begin, as we search without remark for the walking stick I have misplaced. It matters more than it ought to. It was the first Pooh gave me when we met, and I have since allowed it to accumulate a significance out of all proportion to its function. Everything looks like a god from this scale. They will later say I descended, borrowing from their language words of dread and revelation, as though cosmic horror were the native climate of the universe. It is a flattering mistake. What unsettles the human mind rarely registers as disruption to us at all. What they call madness feels, at our scale, like a tolerable afternoon in which nothing requires attention. They imagine shrieking immensities and impossible truths because they assume the eldritch pantheon is a writhing, impossible mass of violence. In practice, our existence is far less theatrical. Vastness proceeds, and time itself keeps its habits. Most things endure without commentary, and the universe betrays the nihilism that terrified Lovecraft when he gazed into the ocean's horizon. Terror enters only when small minds insist the universe ought to speak in their image, assigning faces, hungers, and intentions to motions that never ask to be understood. When something large enough moves, the consequences ripple outward faster than explanation can follow, and those watching from below reach for explanations of divinity, because it is the only language that makes disproportion feel personal. A child looks up at a storm and believes it is angry. A civilization looks up at the sky and believes it is watching. The 100-acre wood feels the absence of its maker and assumes it has done something wrong. The 100-acre wood, alive and born from a childhood's curious imagination, persisted somewhere between those distances. It bore the marks of erosion clearly enough, wounds that should have ended it. But it remained, long after the pressures that formed it had thinned beyond usefulness. and that is why the anomaly drew my attention. The 100-acre wood did not want to end. There's no biological explanation for a semi-sentient magical forest born from imagination that wishes, beneath itself to its very roots, to remain standing upright when its authors and readers stop believing in it. And yet it persisted. It drifted through space without allegiance to any dominant cosmology, carrying a geography that refused to settle into a single scale. Its internal rules shifted when unobserved, then resumed as though no interruption had occurred. Paths rearranged themselves. Clearings persisted without justification. The place endured in the absence of maintenance, operating under assumptions that had outlived their source. From a distance it resembled debris. From closer in it behaved like something unfinished. I slowed my travels. Yog-Sothoth noticed but didn't try to stop me. The end was nigh for the 100-acre wood, and any contact with it would be inconsequential to the ocean of time. And somehow, a human mind who I would later learn was to be called Christopher Robin, had once arranged this place without intending permanence. Childhood imagination possesses a density that resists immediate collapse. It exists in more than one dimension, a power of imagination that human beings forget about in the mind palace of their ancient past. And it builds worlds under the assumption that attention will remain available. That stories do not require maintenance once they are loved, but when that mind grows older, as minds are designed to do, the sustaining pressure thins, memory loosens, belief wanders. The 100-acre wood by this cosmic rule, and the gatekeeper of time's decree, should have naturally concluded with no intervention, and yet it didn't. And so with cosmic boredom I descended. However, please understand, careful listener, cosmic boredom is often mistaken for apathy. It is closer to saturation. When one has seen everything resolve itself according to expectation, even a small refusal becomes noticeable. And for the first time, I chose not merely to observe the outcome, but to be involved. I chose to see the inhabitants. That decision would, much later, draw the attention of Azathoth himself, though that lies farther along this account than I intend to travel just yet. As I am prone to doing, I am already exceeding the bounds of a useful explanation. When one experiences space and time as your species experiences a familiar room, it becomes difficult to keep a narrative confined to 3 dimensions. In any case, at my usual scale, I would have overwhelmed the experiment before it revealed anything of value. Lovecraft was not entirely wrong when he insisted that direct attention from beings such as myself carries weight enough to collapse what it observes. So I adopted a shape that could move along paths rather than rearrange them, a configuration better suited to shelves, steps, and conversation. This was not a transformation of essence, only of posture. It was the beginning of the version of myself you now recognize. And it was only then, having decided to look more closely, that I noticed the bear, who had been wandering among the ruins of Christopher Robin's formative years all along, keeping the place company as though this were the most reasonable thing in the universe. The wood reacted immediately. Ground thickened where my weight suggested it might be needed. Paths widened in venerable anticipation, offering themselves in parallel, as though options alone might suffice. Trees leaned into arrangements they had not practiced in some time, rehearsing relevance. The ecosystem interpreted scale through familiarity. It had learned how to respond to bears, storms, hills that arrived unannounced and stayed. Faced with something larger, it extrapolated rather than recoiled. The place, in summary, attempted hospitality, even when it was on its cosmic deathbed. Had I remained fast, it would have continued preparing, investing resources it could not replace, which would have only expedited the process, and Yog-Sothoth would have looked at me curiously. So I finished folding myself smaller, until my presence no longer encouraged effort. By then, the wood had already classified me as a temporary feature, which is how many eras begin and most friendships do. Only later did I understand why the place could persist at all.
Excuse me. Are you lost? I don't blame you if you are. Everything seems to be going missing.
Cosmic boredom brought me near the wood. Cosmic curiosity kept me there. And Winnie the Pooh, as I've come to know him, would help me appreciate that life persisted in an indifferent universe.
You're very tall.
He observes with paw stroking his furry chin.
But not in the way trees are tall, and you don't smell like Christopher, which is helpful.
I remain where I am. The 100-acre wood adjusts around me, with the careful politeness of a place that cannot yet decide whether it is being examined or replaced.
Are you perhaps a sort of animal, do you think? Or are you more of a daydream that's gotten lost?
The question opens outward. It touches more answers than it intends to. None of them have ever required sound. No. The word leaves my breath and the universe behaves as though something sacred has been named. I feel it before I see it. A loosening, a collective hesitation as if the forward pressure of things has been asked to wait. The very laws of entropy, which has never once acknowledged objection, falters. And I realize that even in this lower form, my powers were very much upon me. The wood answers first. A breath shudders through its magical gravity that is not weather. Leaves turn their faces without knowing why. The ground steadies beneath Pooh's weight, as though grateful for the reminder that remaining upright is still an option. Far above us, the stars shift their long attention, abandoning their customary indifference to realign by a fraction too small to measure and far too large to ignore. It is celestial worship and recognition towards the divine of the divine, and I am unprepared for it. I become aware, then, of the enormity of what I have done. I have not merely spoken. I have changed my grandfather's design, a system that has proceeded unquestioned since before memory has been told, once that it may not. And for the first time since time learned how to move forward, it listens. Pooh is not registering any of this or my exhilaration and awe. He is occupied with the dirt beneath his paw, which firms obligingly as though it has been given permission to hold. If he notices anything at all, it is only that the day has grown gentler without explanation. I remain where I am. Pooh sits down on a patch of grass and adjusts his honey jar next to him like a personal adventure companion. Apparently, an impending apocalypse of one's own homeworld makes one hungry. I did not blame him.
And you're definitely not a human?
My eye twitches. I had assumed the sensation came from compression, from too much of myself passing through a form that could not properly contain it. The wood does make allowances, but it cannot increase volume. I understand it now. The feeling is irritation. No.
Oh,
He says, oblivious with relief.
that narrows it down.
I look at him with fixed silence. He peers back, head tilted.
Well, you're not a heffalump either.
He decides.
They're much louder about it. And you're not a woozle either. Woozles like to repeat themselves.
I do not know what these things are.
Are you Christopher, perhaps?
Pooh asks, with a sliver of hope.
Doing a very clever trick?
No. The word is becoming far easier to say, and I'm wondering if this singular word covers most conversations in the universe's history.
I see.
He picks at the ground with his paw. The soil obliges for now.
That makes sense.
He continues after a moment.
Christopher hasn't been around for quite some time. And when he left, things began going missing in a way that wasn't the usual sort. And Mr. Milne? Well, he left sooner than that, and has been gone for far longer.
I register the profundity in his words, listening. The wood tightens around the idea of absence, as if it were an extension of Pooh's thoughts and audience to the rivers of his emotions.
If everything is going to go dark,
Pooh says, solemn in the way of someone rehearsing an inevitability.
I would like to be with them when it does. That seems polite.
All at once I start to feel the pressure of another eldritch god, tethering itself to my conscious mind. Yog-Sothoth. My grandfather is waiting for me to correct the error in the only manner he recognizes. He governs sequence and closure. He does not understand why a thing would be allowed to linger once its usefulness has expired. I understand him well enough. That is not the problem. I turn my head slightly, just enough to acknowledge what is still watching from everywhere at once. Hear me, grandfather. You may be the governor of time. I direct back along the channel he never fully closes. But you are not the reaper of biology and are forbidden from harvesting its children. The distinction matters. Time may decide when a thing may no longer continue uninterrupted. It may deny extension, and it may refuse to look away. But time does not reach down into the soil and stop a heart. It does not dissolve a body by decree. And it does not end companionship with a ledger entry. Those endings belong to hunger, to wear, to neglect, to the slow failure of care. My grandfather withdraws again like the breath of the tide, displeased not because I am wrong, but because I am precise. Precision is inconvenient when one prefers inevitability. When I return to the bear, he is studying my face for the first time, and I felt an atom of vulnerability from being observed.
What should I call you? My name is Pooh, if you will keep it.
He asks and declares this as a practical matter, as though setting something on a shelf where it may be found again. I hesitate. Each name I carry has consequence, and I am unaccustomed to offering one without being required to surrender something in return. I register then, with some delay, the anomaly I have failed to categorize properly. It is not that the bear speaks without fear. Many beings do that, loudly and at length. It is that he speaks to me without strategy. Among my own kind, names are weapons. Titles are leverage, and address is always a negotiation disguised as courtesy. Even my equals speak with angles. The bear does not. He has spoken to me as one speaks to weather that has stopped long enough to answer back. The recognition unsettles me. I am called many things, I say at last, hoping for no further probing. I feel the faint admonishment of my grandfather gather at the nape of my neck, disapproving of the delay. Pooh nods instead of inquiring, accepting this as incomplete but sufficient.
Then you may tell me one of those things later if I'm around to hear one.
He waits a beat, watching the path ahead give in to the gravity of the void as though listening for its opinion. Bear, I say, testing the word and finding it acceptable. Tell me something. Do you assume an ending? Pooh looks up at me. Surprised and startled perhaps by his own thoughts being fleshed out in the open.
Do I?
He ponders this more as an aside.
Oh, well, I suppose I do. Everything else has been very busy practicing it.
I hesitate. The sensation is unfamiliar enough that I recognize it immediately. It is not doubt. It is involvement. The word I spoke earlier still reverberates through systems that have not yet decided how seriously to take it, and I am aware now that I have already interfered. Entropy does not appreciate being contradicted, even indirectly. The realization leaves me less distant than I prefer. Do you know what a god is, and what they can do? Pooh considers this with the gravity he applies to weather and difficult jars.
I've heard the word, usually when things go wrong very suddenly.
He thinks a moment longer.
Christopher used to say there was one who made everything and then watched very closely to see how it turned out. I never met him. He sounded busy.
I find this answer unsatisfactory and accurate. Before I can respond, something presses against my awareness, pricking like needles, but not as sharp as last time. A presence that does not intrude so much as occupy. My grandfather again, though his posture has changed. You are exceeding observation, Yog-Sothoth conveys, from a place that contains too many places at once. You are altering my trajectory. That region was already scheduled to fail. I am aware, I answer annoyed, without turning. For now, he replies, and you are not the only one who notices deviation. If you persist, Nyarlathotep will wonder why he doesn't get his toys. I lift my hand again in dismissive acknowledgement. The pressure recedes, reluctant, unresolved. Pooh has watched all of this. He is studying my face with mild curiosity, as though noting a change in the weather.
Is that another god? You seem to have a lot of ways to talk without talking.
Yes. Pooh hums thoughtfully, tasting the taciturn nature of my replies like small slices of honey. And he waits again, turning the word over as though checking it for splinters.
Do these gods practice endings too?
The question arrives with more force than its construction warrants. It is not accusatory. It is not curious in the way questions usually are. It is observational. The sort of inquiry one makes after noticing a pattern that refuses to remain incidental. I do not answer him. The absence settles between us and finds no resistance.
Will whatever it was cross with you later?
Pooh asks, still facing the wood, as though the matter were already decided, and this was merely a scheduling concern. Almost certainly.
Well, that's all right then.
He says it without bravado, without comfort, and without the fragile optimism mortals often mistake for courage. He accepts the consequence the way one accepts weather that will arrive regardless of preparation. We sit there together, at the edge of a place that should not still be deciding what it is permitted to become, while the world holds itself in a posture it cannot sustain indefinitely. Time presses forward elsewhere. Here it waits.
You know, Mr. Whatever you are that is not a huppalump or woozle, I don't think you're here to end things.
Pooh says at last. The statement is an assessment, and I become aware with some discomfort that it is more accurate than I would have preferred. I look at him again, more carefully this time. I don't think so either, little bear, I admit. He smiles because something has changed.
Well,
He says, standing up.
if you're going to be here, you might as well walk. Standing still for too long makes the wood nervous.
I follow him without quite understanding why. Behind us, the trees exhale and continue existing in their impossible magical kingdom of storybook logic. Pooh does not speak for a while after I follow him. The path resumes with the faint relief of something that had been holding its breath without knowing why. The wood adjusts around us, no longer preparing, no longer rehearsing its own ending, but listening instead for cues it recognizes. I am aware, with increasing precision, of the problem I have created. I cannot withdraw entirely without accelerating the collapse I have already delayed. Observation has weight now. My presence has registered. The system has adjusted for me and perhaps even imprinted. Leaving would not restore neutrality. It would only introduce absence as a new variable, and absence, I have learned, behaves unpredictably in places that remember being spoken for. Staying as I am presents a different difficulty. Even folded down, I remain excessive. The wood responds to me as it would to a storm that lingers too long, over-preparing, offering more than it can replace. I have reached the edge of my usual options. Pooh stops again with intention. The path obeys at once. He looks up at me, measuring nothing about my size and everything about my posture.
You seem,
He says carefully.
like someone who hasn't decided where to put himself yet.
That is accurate, I reply. He nods, satisfied, as though this confirms something he had already accounted for.
I used to think that things went missing because they were careless, but I don't think that anymore.
This observation lands with inconvenient precision.
I have found that it helps to make a place anyway.
A place.
Yes. Somewhere things can go when they're finished being what they were supposed to be.
I consider several responses. None of them resolve the problem. The wood waits. It has learned, in recent days, that patience is sometimes rewarded. Pooh shifts his weight, then looks back toward the deeper interior, where the paths still behave themselves, and the trees remember how to stand without leaning.
I don't usually invite strangers, but you don't feel like one. Not really. And I suspect we will be getting to know one another.
He pauses, then adds, with the same courteous seriousness he applies to all important matters.
Say, you know what? How would you like to see the library I built in my home?
I look at him, at the bear, who has lost his friends and continued regardless, at the place that persists because it assumes someone might arrive eventually, at the offer itself, which is neither rescue nor solution, but an agreement to continue without pretending nothing has been altered. What is, I ask carefully, a library?
Oh, let's see. How could I describe it? Well, to put it simply, it's the most wonderful place.
Pooh replies at once.
My friend Christopher once said, "My dear Pooh, libraries are where all the stories go to celebrate what they know. Think of it like a giant stack of books like you stack your honey jars, but they can be read by everyone. It's where we keep the things that would otherwise wander off."
I find that I do not quite understand him precisely. My species benefits from omniscience, and we have never once thought about storing any of it. I am familiar with archives somewhat, I say. It is the habit of keeping with records, keeping up with repositories of knowledge. Yes, I have encountered such structures in my travels. Pooh smiles, as though I have confirmed something rather than explained it.
Splendid! Then this will be different for you, perhaps.
A short while later, between here and then in a manner that requires no accounting, we arrive at his house. It sits as though it has always been expected to be found. I am reminded of a large squirrel, industrious without urgency, shaping the world by habit rather than ambition. The bear has arranged his dwelling with the same sensibility. Nothing is hoarded, nothing is neglected. Each object exists as if it anticipates the next walk, the next meal, the next encounter, and intends to be ready without fuss. It is a place built for return. Bear, I say after some consideration, my name. The universe tightens, everywhere and dramatically, enough that I feel it in places that do not usually report sensation. Time, which ordinarily passes through me without resistance, clusters. The past leans forward. The future loses patience. Every system that depends on my remaining unaddressed reacts at once, and the reaction is not coordinated. The warning arrives in sight, that compression wordless and absolute. My grandfather does not speak so much as impose refusal. Names are not uttered without consequence, and this one will not be forgiven its audience. You will be marked. The bear will be marked. You will have to answer one day, and I have all the time. If you do this, the structure will remember. If you do this, there will be no returning to observation. I tell him to shut up. My name, I repeat, feeling the resistance give way rather than break, is Cthulhu.
Well then,
Pooh replies, pleased in a way that contains no awe at all.
It's very nice to meet you, Mr. Cthulhu.
He pauses, then adds,
One day, if you stick around long enough, you can help me sort out all these books. We could even make you the official librarian of the 100-acre woods, Cthulhu the Librarian.
The name does not resist, and I do not yet understand why that should concern. And yet on this auspicious, strange day, another force compels me to say what I'm about to say next. I am going to delay the ending. Pooh is now glancing in his refrigerator for any food he may not have eaten yet on his many outings of the week.
I'm not sure what that means, but it does sound like a lot of work.
It is, and it may fail.
That's all right. Most things worth doing sometimes do. Anyway,
He turns towards his door with several walking sticks.
if you're staying, you might as well get a small token of gratitude for saving the 100-acre wood.
He holds still by the door with a brand new walking stick he decides he's going to present to me, and glances back over his shoulder.
Also, Mr. Cthulhu, if you can help it, try not to lose this walking stick.